Everyone at the Centennial Theatre in North Vancouver.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Zatari is the name of the world's largest Syrian refugee camp. It's also the title of a new cookbook featuring culinary traditions of the people who live there.
The war destroyed everything. They destroyed our homes, but they cannot destroy our culture.
The endurance of Syrian culture through food, 13 years after the country's civil war began. On the Sunday Magazine with Pia Chattopadhyay. Sunday morning at 9:30 in Newfoundland. And on CBC Listen.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show?
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at +1 with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. A community outreach worker says children at risk need more wraparound care to keep them on a good path. This follows the Winnipeg police chief saying yesterday that the suspects in 4 recent violent robberies were teenagers from foster care or group homes. He said the needs of those children obviously weren't being met. Mitch Bourbonnier works with at-risk young people. He says more of those children need access to the Action Therapy Program, which assigns an adult to mentor those children.
So if every child had a champion, an uncle, an auntie, someone that worked beyond business hours, that were there for the youth in the evenings, on the weekends, helping them through crisis, but also, again, keeping them busy.
Bourbonnier says staff in the CFS system are stretched to the limit and doing what they can, but he says more needs to be done to identify children at risk and to work with them. A 22-year-old woman is being charged with mischief after smashing the window on a train. Last night, police were called to a report of a distressed woman in the Mission Gardens neighborhood. They were told a woman had climbed into a parked locomotive and grabbed a hammer from the toolbox. She repeatedly struck the outside of the window on the engine, causing $1,500 in damage. The conductor locked the door of the cabin, preventing her from getting inside. Officers found her on the CN rail line property near Plessy Road and Bernay Drive. She was arrested, but while in custody, her behavior escalated, and she was taken to hospital for further assessment and treatment. A judge in Georgia in the United States has ruled District Attorney Fani Willis can stay on the 2020 election interference racketeering case against former President Donald Trump, but only if Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade is removed. Richard Madden has your details.
Judge Scott McAfee was pretty blunt in his decision. He basically outlined 2 options. Either District Attorney Fani Willis goes or her former romantic partner Nathan Wade goes. In his decision, the judge said dismissal of the indictment is not the appropriate remedy to adequately dissipate the financial cloud of impropriety and potential untruthfulness found here. So the judge said Trump's lawyers also failed to prove there was an actual conflict of interest through Fani Willis's prior relationship with Nathan Wade and the luxury vacations she had with him. He says this didn't meet the bar to disqualify under Georgia law. So this means the case against the former president will continue, but one of those prosecutors, they've got to go. The trial date is supposed to be set for August. Nothing's been confirmed, but now that this decision has been made, the case is back on track, and the likelihood of it happening before November's election has just boosted up a bit. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
An armed standoff continues in Calgary for a second day.
This event continues to present a significant threat to public and officer safety.
Police say a shelter-in-place order remains in effect in the East Calgary community of Pembroke Meadows. Shots were fired at officers as they were executing a warrant. Yesterday afternoon, there were no injuries. Police say the suspect's residence has been contained but wouldn't provide details. The RCMP is assisting Calgary police. The Palestinian Health Ministry is accusing Israeli forces of killing more than 20 people near an aid distribution area in northern Gaza. The Health Ministry says the victims were waiting for aid when they were hit by Israeli shelling. The Israeli military denies the allegations, saying the reports are false. Meanwhile, there's a significant security presence in occupied East Jerusalem today for the first Friday prayers of Ramadan. Sarah Coates has your story.
I've just been for a walk down the street into the old city, which is where we are, and there are many, many extremely heavily armed border police officers. We do know that around 3,000 have been deployed around the old city. I'm hearing the mosque now behind me. I'm right at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We do understand that some restrictions are now being placed on Palestinians coming in from the West Bank, not from Jerusalem. So this could potentially see things really ignite, given that this is a flashpoint area, even when a war isn't ongoing. And also given the fact that Hamas has once again put out a call for Muslims, for Palestinians around this area to march on the Al-Aqsa Mosque during the first Friday prayer. So certainly very tense on the ground. Many armed police, as I said, patrolling the streets with the Friday prayer happening in just a couple of hours' time.
Sarah Coates reporting. And finally, Ducks Unlimited is getting special recognition by the provincial government. Manitoba has declared Sunday as Ducks Unlimited Day. The first wetland conservation project was at Big Grass Marsh 85 years ago. Since then, Ducks Unlimited has helped restore over 2.3 million acres in the province. There are more than 1,500 habitat projects in Manitoba. And that is your CBC News from Winnipeg. For news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can head on over to our CBC News app. Taking a look at the Manitoba forecast for the day, in Winnipeg, we're seeing periods of rain with a few flurries this afternoon and very windy at times. Wind from the west, a high of +5. Brandon, cloudy, a strong wind from the west, a high of +5. Dauphin, a chance of showers and windy, a high of +5. In Flin Flon, a high of +5 with rain and wind. In Thompson, snow and rain, a high of +2. And in Churchill, a high of -8 with snow off and on and windy.
Well, good afternoon, Manitoba. And hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Radio Noon. And strange for me to be filling in. We'll have to see how many times I say good morning, which is the show I'm normally hosting. But wonderful to be with you here on CBC over the lunch hour on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app or on YouTube. So thanks for being with us. As you just heard, we've got an afternoon where it's going to be a little bit windy, highs of 5 across most of the province, and lots coming up on Radio Noon. We're going to build on some of the stories you've been hearing in the news. A state of emergency in Shamattawa. Hear more on why the First Nation is stepping up its efforts to crack down on drugs. They're searching vehicles that enter the community. We'll have that story with some more detail for you. And then we're going to find out about something that's going to be burning in Selkirk for good reason and with a safe reason in Selkirk this weekend. They've got this large straw sculpture that they're going to be having on display, and we're going to hear from the artist this hour about what's planned around that, so stay tuned. Glad to be with you. Well, let's get right into the program this morning and start with that story that I've just mentioned. 6 Manitoba First Nations want to make Brandon more accessible to northern communities, so they are starting by reopening the Brandon Bus Depot. And let's begin with that story. CBC reporter Chelsea Kemp spoke to one of the First Nations involved with the project and the operations manager about why it's important.
Mohican is wolf. And on our bus, we have 6 wolves. 6 First Nations own the bus line. So we have 6 wolves on there, and our team is travel with the pack.
And so how did you end up getting the Greyhound bus station in Brandon? What led to that?
I was chief there now for 10 years, and I speaking with my council, and I said, we're going to go out and look for business opportunities, and one of the business opportunities came up was the Brandon Bus Depot. One guy had told us that it was for sale, and we contacted them, and we got a lot of information on it. And we own Mohican Bus Lines. We're 1/6 owner of Mohican Bus Lines. So I talked to them, and told them if we purchased the bus lines, that if they would rent it off of us and use it for transportation for people traveling to the north, First Nations, anybody that would like to use the bus lines for medical, transportation, freight, and we also use it for charter.
Well, and What's it like not having a bus depot like that in Brandon? How does it affect y'all?
Okay, right now in Brandon, it's very hard because we have a lot of band members there, and we do a lot of our medical appointments there. And if we didn't have a place there for our people to get a ride on the bus and all that, it would be very difficult for many years. We purchased the bus lines in 2019, and ever since then we've been traveling from Flin Flon all the way up to Winnipeg, from the north to the south. And now we're going to get into Brandon and travel from the north into Brandon and then to the south also. So we're going to have a better opportunity for all people to use this transportation, and it's going to benefit our people for the future, for our revenue.
Well,
to bring into our community.
Well, and it seems like a good fit because in Manitoban terms, Swan River and Brandon are close to each other, but that's still a long drive if you don't have a car.
Yeah, it's about 3 or 4 hours from Swan River, 4 hours.
If the weather's good.
It's going to help a lot of people.
Well, when did you guys buy the bus depot?
Oh my God, I didn't keep that. We bought it about a year and a half ago, and it's not only for the bus lines. We're also putting other businesses in there. We're thinking of putting some VLTs in there. Hopefully we're going to put a pharmacy, maybe a restaurant, and whoever wants to rent part of it, because that's a big building.
Yeah.
And right now, we're in the process of renovating it. We're just met with the city. Everything's on the go. We just got a couple more permits that we have to go through, and then we're all set to go.
Nice. How excited are you?
I'm very excited because this is a good opportunity for our people in Brandon to come work there also, and to travel back and forth from Swan River to Brandon, and then from Brandon to Winnipeg. People will be happy to have a bus line. Yeah. We also use our bus lines as for chartering. We charter into U.S. We charter all over. We charter hockey teams. Yeah. So we're getting bigger as we speak. You know, I've been a chief for 10 years, and when I grew up, I was into the business. I did a lot of business work. Had my own business for about 9 years. Yeah. And I think about how nowadays with our children and in the future of this world, we have to have our own revenue coming in to better our children's lives, our elders, and our people. And this is a way to start with us doing this and leaving a good, solid foundation for our children when we're gone to the spirit world. I'm just hoping that everything falls into place and it opens soon, because the people sure could use that. And not only our people, but other people and other businesses could use it for freight, whatever they want. We use it for medical transportation, for bringing all our medical into the communities through the north. And we're expanding as we speak. Our bus lines will get bigger if everything works out for us.
So that was CBC reporter Chelsea Kemp in conversation with the chief of Wesquoichepik, Elwood Zastre, about what this would mean to the community. For First Nations, 6 of them involved in renovating and reopening the bus depot in Brandon. Now, just to place this in the province, if you don't live out that way, the community is about 375 kilometers north of Brandon. It had purchased the former Greyhound bus depot about a year ago. So it will be one of 6 First Nation co-owners of the Mohican bus lines, and that will use the space once it opens. So very much a shared project that involves a lot of people and community members that will be affected by this. Now, Chelsea also spoke to Ainsley Smith, who's the operations manager for Mohican Bus Lines, about what communities they plan on targeting.
How would you describe transportation for remote, especially First Nation communities, if they're looking to get to urban centers?
Right now, since Greyhound closed down, there's definitely a gap put in place for a lot of those communities that used to be able to take the Greyhound bus. We stepped up and did the Brandon to Flin Flon, but we're still missing a lot of the First Nation communities. With the addition of Brandon and possibly going up to Dauphin from there, and we are going to try and hit a few more of the remote communities that have been lacking since the closing of Greyhound.
And it's unique because it's 6 different nations that own it, right?
Yes, 6 First Nations own our bus company.
And how does that kind of help guide operations?
We we have tried to serve our communities. Most of the communities or the First Nations that own the bus company are currently on our route. It's Wasquezy Peak, Sapatoyak, Opaskwayak. So we go through those every day or by those every day or 6 days a week. We have done in Easterville and Grand Rapids, which includes the other two routes, the other two First Nations, but it wasn't well used. We may get that again in the future, but right now I think we want to try and get the folks from those First Nations we're already touching down to Brandon, which is the hub for the Prairie Health Authority, right?
Well, and why does it matter having a bus depot here?
I think it just gives us a place to a trusted partner that's going to make sure that the people we're dropping off are taken care of and will be looked after, and we can possibly do some hospital runs and such from there like we do in the Paw. It'll help connect the north to the second largest city in Manitoba.
That once again was CBC reporter Chelsea Kemp speaking to Chief Elwood Zastre about the Mohican bus lines. And that last conversation you heard was with Ainsley Smith, the operations manager for Mohican, about the communities that they're hoping on targeting. If you want to check out more of the story, please go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
For breaking news as it happens, stay with CBC News. For the latest updates and what it means for Canadians, stay with CBC News. When the biggest stories break, both at home and around the world, stay with CBC News.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You are listening to Radio Noon. Sometimes when I fill in later in the day, people have to adjust their radios if they're morning show listeners, but great to be here with you over the lunch hour. Not bad out there. We have highs of 5 across most of the province. In Winnipeg today, we have periods of rain this afternoon, possible flurries in our day here, and strong winds, southwest 40 to 60. Our high will be, as mentioned, 5 degrees. Into tonight, we're going to have some clouds, a few showers and scattered flurries, -5 overnight. Tomorrow morning, we're going to stay below 0 for the day for most of the Saturday. So -3 is our Saturday high in Winnipeg. And over in Brandon today, you're expecting also a high of 5 degrees, strong winds. You should clear tonight of all of this, except it's going to get windier overnight. And then tomorrow in the Brandon area, it's going to get cloudy and there's some snow expected. So about 2 centimeters of snow expected in Brandon tomorrow. Periods of rain across the Red River Valley this afternoon with flurries. And in Poplar River, Barons River, and Island Lake, you're looking at greater amounts of snow, about 5 to 10 centimeters of snow expected across those regions. Current conditions and temperatures, I mentioned we've got lots of 5s expected for daytime highs. Right now, Brandon is sitting at 2 degrees. In Winnipeg, we're sitting at 1. Over in Dauphin, right now it's cloudy and it's 4. And currently up in Thompson, light snow and -4. It's 12:17 right now. This weekend's actually the final weekend of winter. And I've asked you on Facebook this morning if you want to hit up my Facebook page, Marcy Marcusa. You're welcome to. I asked what you're planning for the last weekend of winter. And a lot of people are still hanging on to the snow. And where you do have snow in your parts of the province, heading out, maybe getting some skiing in. Other people are starting seeds, doing the complete opposite. People writing in that they're looking for a little bit of that springtime to come early. So starting the seeds indoor with the promise of seeing something green. Well, next on Radio Noon, let's turn our attention back to a story that's been in the news today. A Northeast Manitoba First Nation is cracking down on drugs and on alcohol. Shamattawa First Nation is supposed to be a dry community, but leaders there have been sharing that bootlegging has increased during the winter road season, and they're concerned about a rise in substance abuse. The CBC's Josh Crabb has been working on the story today for CBC, and he spoke with James Favel, who's president of the Anishinaabe Ambassadors. That company's been hired to stop the flow of banned substances.
The chief and council have expressed concerns about drug activity, mainly in that community. You've been given the power. Now, is it your people who are searching vehicles?
We are, yeah. So we work under BCR, a band council resolution that empowers us to do the work that we do. and we're going in and we're searching incoming traffic on the winter roads. We're likely going to be searching at the airports as well. Just any point of entry. We're also watching skidoo trails, things like that.
So is there like checkpoints set up, or
Yeah.
can you give us a sense of what it looks like?
Well, they've got a shack. There also is a position down the winter road, maybe 10 or 15 kilometers, where skidoo trails start. And so they want us to watch that as well, because what typically happens is somebody will bring it to that one of those points, offload it into a skidoo, and then they come in through a different route. And so I believe we have access to one skidoo there, as well as a few trucks, and we're monitoring 24/7.
What kind of substances are you looking for?
Well, banned substances, so alcohol, drugs, including marijuana, in this location. Yeah.
And what have you found so far?
So far, a little bit of hard drugs, some marijuana, and mostly alcohol.
Okay.
A lot of the trucks that come in are carrying alcohol.
But right now, the chief and council don't want any alcohol or
They're
any
asking for a
drugs.
total ban right now. Yeah.
How unique is that?
It's not, and so this is not an isolated incident. We are we are working in 4 communities at this point, and we just wrapped up a couple other contracts, and we've been doing this for a while. This is pervasive throughout most of our nations. Yeah.
So the band council resolution states that Anishinaabe ambassadors work with special constables. So are people from the community also involved in conducting the searches?
Yes, and so basically we work alongside the existing resources, and we try to bolster them. Typically, like most communities we go to, they have 1 or 2 FNSOs, and they're usually, training is lacking. They get the basic training through the First Nation Safety Officer program, but it really doesn't prepare them for what they're going to come into contact with. And then again, they're outnumbered in such a terrible fashion. So we go in and we provide supports for them so that they're able to better do their jobs. We encourage recruitment of new bodies so that there's more people when we leave. Essentially what we're trying to do is foster a sense of stakeholder mentality, provide wraparound supports. It's not enough to just come in and, go after drugs and alcohol. There needs to be those supports for people who are then going to be drying out. So we're always evolving to meet the needs of the communities that we're serving.
What happens when you find a substance in someone's possession?
So typically what we do is we seize the contraband, prepare a report, and pass it off to Chief and Council. We're not there to criminalize people. So one of the things that I'm very happy about with this program is criminalization is not something that we're after. We don't want to see more people come into contact with the law. So we go in, we make our seizures, pass it off to Chief and Council. The drugs are typically handed off to our CMP, but in a case where it's not possible, it's destroyed. The other stuff was flushed in the toilet the other day. Alcohol is dumped at the dump and things like that, or right there at the checkpoint. We videotape what we're doing so that we have transparency.
The RCMP does have a presence in Shamattawa. Are they involved in this at all?
We typically we involve them when necessary. We involve them we have seized a lot of firearms. Not in this community, but in the past, we've seized a lot of firearms. So we turn those kinds of things over to the RCMP or Manitoba First Nation Police. And the drugs typically go to them as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this work dangerous at all?
Absolutely. People are, we're catching people at their worst time, when they're most stressed out. We're taking their drugs, we're taking their alcohol, and they're not happy about it.
And when you say taking their drugs and alcohol, are you finding this basically in possession of people who want to consume it, or is it people who are bringing it there to sell it?
Most times we're going after the consumer. At least it works out that the consumer is the one that we're interacting with the most. But we are absolutely targeting drug dealers, bootleggers, things like that. We're doing surveillance on homes, watching for where the traffic is, and then we're going after them.
What do you know about where illegal drugs specifically are coming from?
Well, again, the winter road is a source. Airport's a source. Mail is a source. But for methamphetamine, that can be produced in community. They have what's called bean juices. They use yeast and water mixture, sugar, and they make their own alcohol. And this stuff is super harmful because it's still fermenting as they're consuming it, and so it really wreaks havoc on your gastrointestinal system. And it's being given to children. So these things are happening in most of the communities that we're seeing. I mean, they want the drugs in the community, and the only way to get it sometimes is to make it.
Okay. And you mentioned you're in a few other communities as well. Just tell us about that.
Well, again, we've been doing this work for a couple of 3 years now, and so we've seen a lot of action in a lot of different communities. Again, like I said, this is not an isolated incident. This is something that's pervasive through our nations, and we've been very busy. Right now, we've got 42 people working in 4 different communities, and we're just trying to keep up with the demand. Yeah. One of the things that we're doing, not just going after drug dealers and bootleggers, but we are providing positive role modeling for the youth. We're again, when I mentioned those wraparound supports, we're doing men's groups now. We've done anti-bullying campaigns in schools, things like that. We're trying to be that support that helps all levels and provides those wraparound supports that people need.
That's James Favel, president of the Anishinaabe Ambassadors, speaking with CBC's Josh Crabb. Now, Josh also connected with a Shamattawa resident and band member, Sherry Schwader, and she said that her car was searched. And Josh asked her to explain what happened.
Me and my husband came in and we were searched. And part of the reason why I got mad is because I don't engage in bootlegging. I never sell anything. I don't do drugs. Never have, and I hope to God I never will. And I don't even smoke cigarettes. So the occasional having wine or a beer is something that I enjoy, but them taking that away completely, it's just depressing.
And so you said you were searched. When did that happen?
We were talking to the guys that were searching us, and they said, "Oh yeah, we just started yesterday." So it was just starting when we came in.
You were driving in on the winter road into Shamattawa?
Yes.
Where were you coming from?
Well, we just came from Winnipeg, so it's a long drive, 22 hours, and plus we were sick. My husband was sick, and we just wanted to get home, so having to be stopped and searched and feeling miserable, we were kind of not happy at all.
And did you agree to the search?
They pretty much didn't have a choice. They because there's a blockade, they block us. So they said either we search you or you go back. We didn't like it. Even if I were to bring a case of beer or a box of wine, normally I do. I'm not going to hide that. Having to be treated like a criminal, that's how I felt. It was just ridiculous. I don't know. It's just something that I did not like. Telling people not to do things hasn't worked.
Sherry Schwader lives in Shamattawa. She was in conversation there with the CBC's Josh Crabb. Now, Josh has been on the story and will continue to stay on it through the day. So check out our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. There you can also read some context for this story because communities in that part of Manitoba have been sounding the alarm on trying to keep substances out of their various communities for years. At one point, a number of the First Nations coming together last fall to highlight the issues that are just ongoing and a big challenge for the community. Time right now is 12:26. Hopefully you're having a good lunch hour. I'm RC Marcusa. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. In Winnipeg, right now we're sitting at 2 degrees, so we cracked zero. Not a roaringly warm day. Over in Brandon right now, it is 3 degrees. Speaking of Brandon, Scott Nolan is going to be heading out to Brandon to play a concert at the Lady of the Lake tonight. Love that spot. From his 2023 album called Before Tonight, this is No Country.
There's a piece of my heart that no country can claim. All I have in this world is my word and my name. And if I am so lucky as to see you again, I'll be the fortunate one. Place in my mind that never forgets, where forgiveness might be all that we get. If there's peace in this war, I ain't found it yet. Still I'm the fortunate one. When that no country can claim. All I have in this world is my word and my name.
Chilling out over your lunch hour with little Scott Nolan, No Country. The Winnipeg singer-songwriter is going to be hitting the highway and heading to Brandon. He is playing The Lady of the Lake tonight, if you want to check it out. And if you want to find his album, that tune is from the 2023 album called Before Tonight. Coming up in the next half hour of Radio Noon, just goat for it. Yeah, I said it. We're going to head to a farm for some goat yoga that also includes a curious pony. And it's apparently really common in Sweden and Europe, but not so common in Manitoba. Until this weekend, that is. We'll find out why a large straw sculpture is going to be engulfed in flames safely in Selkirk. We'll talk to the artist after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. At 12:30, we're plus 2 degrees with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Hello there, I'm Matt Humphrey, a social worker who works with young people at risk, says the intentions behind Winnipeg Police Chief's comments yesterday, the police chief's comments, the intentions were good, but could stigmatize young people in care. Police Chief Danny Smythe yesterday said 4 violent robberies in recent days were committed mainly by teenagers who are in foster or group homes. He says more needs to be done to help those children. Meanwhile, Mitch Bourbonniere is a community outreach worker with the Downtown Community Safety Partnership. He says staff at those homes are stretched to the limit.
They do it for low pay and they work hard and they do their best, but you can't lock kids down. If they're going to go, if they're going to run, if they're going to be out there, you can't stop that. So the answer is not to lock them down.
Bourbonniere says the best way to reach those children is with wraparound care, with what he calls aunties and uncles who help mentor them. He says most of the 10,000 children in CFS care are good children. Overseas, Russians went to the polls today in a presidential election that's expected to hand Vladimir Putin another 6 years in power. As Dominic Velitis reports, the first day of voting has been marked by acts of protest.
An act of arson at a polling station in Kugalim. The fire was quickly extinguished. Although other acts of protest were reported at polling stations in Moscow and St. Petersburg, there's little doubt Vladimir Putin will win this election. His fiercest critics have either been exiled, jailed, or are dead. The prominent opposition leader Alexei Navalny, the most notable example. The war in Ukraine is providing the backdrop for this election. As Russians voted, Putin accused Kyiv of trying to infiltrate Russia in an operation involving Ukrainian commandos and foreign mercenaries, an act the Russian leader said would not be left unpunished. The Kremlin, meanwhile, is banking on high voter turnout over the next 3 days. Only that will legitimize Putin's decision to invade Russia's neighbor and help the authorities frame dissenting voices at home as a minority amongst Russians. Dominic Velitis, CBC News, London.
And UNESCO has announced a new addition to its cultural heritage list. Berlin's celebrated techno club scene is now an internationally recognized cultural movement. The date of its birth is debatable, but most music historians suggest it emerged shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall. The campaign to have techno club culture added to the UNESCO list has been in the works for over a decade. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Come on now, you set me up, Matt.
Sorry.
You a techno guy?
Who can't be?
Me.
I'll stop it then. Sorry.
I think it's I'm not cool enough is the truth. I had a really good friend in college who was all over the scene, even when it was sort of in its, back in the day then. And it's so cool. I love it. I just can't do a whole night of it.
Oh, yeah,
Can I get into it and appreciate it? Absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah.
The night's a bit much.
You seen Atomic Blonde? That movie with Charlize Theron?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to appreciate the techno scene, they do a pretty good job of looking at that. It's set in the 80s, so
Totally.
I felt cool just by watching it.
The craft work scene.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, movie. We have so much to offer you on Radio Noon today. Movie recommendations, music. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Matt Humphrey in our news department. It is 12:33 right now on Radio Noon. I'm Marcy Marcusa, and thanks for being with us here on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app, on YouTube. We're everywhere. And so is Riley Laitchuk, who's popped into the studio with our forecast. How are you doing?
Good. If you have the day off today, it's probably a good day in southern Manitoba, at least, if you stay inside with a movie, because we're in for A little bit of wet weather this afternoon. Looking at satellite radar right now, we are starting to see that area of low pressure that I was talking about yesterday, or the past couple days at least, starting to move down into southern Manitoba, bringing some flurries, some light snow to the Interlake, and along the Trans-Canada corridor right now, even radar returns suggesting some rain or some light snow. We'll see that moving into the Winnipeg region and the Red River Valley as we get later into the afternoon today. So I'm calling it periods of rain through the afternoon today. We're not looking at really any sort of steady precipitation, but certainly as we get through the day today into the evening tonight, some scattered rain showers, some scattered flurries overnight tonight. That really continues through the bulk of Saturday, just a chance of some scattered flurry activity. Otherwise, not a lot of weather. We start to see skies clearing toward a bit more of a sunnier sky again by the time we get into the day on Sunday. In terms of snow to come, looking at about, 4 to 5 centimeters for Shamattawa, God's Lake down through Barons River and Poplar River. For rainfall, pretty negligible, 2 to 5 millimeters, maybe some pockets of higher precipitation if you get caught in one of these more stronger cells, but pretty benign weather-wise as we get through the day today, aside from a few showers. The story, though, will be the winds, and we're looking at winds, especially as we get through the later afternoon, picking up into that west 40, gusting to 60. Could even see some gusts into that 70 range on some of the open areas, open highways as we get into the overnight period tonight, through along sort of Lake Manitoba into the Interlake, seeing gusts forecast up to about 70 or even 80 as we get into the overnight period before we start to see winds dying off a bit as we get into the day on Saturday. So today, looking at a high of 5 in Winnipeg, periods of rain, maybe some flurries to the Interlake region, less of a chance the further west you go. So areas like Melita expecting a mix of sun and cloud this afternoon, 7 degrees. Thompson sitting at 1 for the afternoon today. -3 is what I have for tomorrow. -1 for Sunday in Winnipeg. Northwest winds gust to 60 tomorrow to 40 on Sunday. And then a bit more sunshine. +3 for Monday and -2s and -3s for Tuesday and Wednesday to start spring. So a little bit below seasonal, Marcy, to start spring. But you know what? Hey, I'll take the sunshine.
No doubt. Me too. Although the roads might be kind of dicey. I'm glad you outlined all that because this morning we were doing the morning show and we're looking out and saying, why is there no traffic? And then all these teachers started phoning. So there's in-services today.
Right.
But there's also, parents are informing me, there's basketball provincials. Oh. So a lot of them, they're all over in different sites. But in Glenborough, for example, you might be on the highway and have to be driving. The girls from, let's shout out some. I understand the high school girls from Sprague and Rosenort won their games this morning. But yeah, mindful to,
be mindful because, especially we're in this sort of freeze-thaw cycle, and that sort of reminded me that this freeze-thaw cycle creating some really icy conditions through the early morning hours and through the later evening hours, especially as some of that melting that we've seen kind of ices up.
Everyone talks about winter, but it's spring when you really kind of have to.
This is definitely the busier weather season. Winter, not so much, but it's the changing conditions through month of March and April that kind of catch you off guard sometimes.
It's a final push, right?
Yeah.
All right, Riley, thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You as well. That's Riley Leitchuk in our Studio 15 with your weather forecast. It's 12:38 on your lunch hour on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcuso. Well, they also are going to be looking for good weather tomorrow in Selkirk because a straw sculpture is going to go out in a blaze of glory this weekend. In Selkirk, a 2-story lantern made out of straw will be lit on fire. If you want to see photos, go to my Facebook page, Marcy Marcusa on Facebook. So last November, this lantern was showcased at Selkirk's Holiday Alley, and now organizers of Fire on the Red say it's time to set it ablaze. Chris Pankow is one of the artists who created this and creative director of Anvil Trees. I spoke with him about this earlier today.
Hi, Marcy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I want to tell people that while we're talking, they can go to my Facebook page if they want, Marcy Marcusa, and see the photos that you sent me of the structure of this huge lantern. How was it constructed? 2 stories tall.
Well, because we knew we were going to light it on fire, we wanted to construct it completely out of consumable materials like wood and basically just scrap wood that we wrangled around our studio, and we didn't want to use any new materials or have to purchase any materials that were just going to be lighting on fire anyway. So it's an understructure of scrap wood, and then we've kind of bound straw around that skeleton.
I mean, it's wild because the skeleton itself, you've done a beautiful job of creating the shape. It has that upper part where if you had a traditional lantern would have the glass pieces in it. Of course, it's hollow. How have you attached the straw around the wood to cover up all the wood?
We use like a wire. It's just basically a thin wire for kind of a baling type wire.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we use wire and not string is because the string would burn off and the straw would fall away from the understructure. So the idea is we want the straw to stick to the structure. So wire is basically the tool of choice there.
How did you know how to do this, to build a structure of this scale and size with straw?
Well, we had seen some of this when we were in Sweden last year, and I guess this type of sculpture is pretty popular in different parts of Europe and Eastern Europe, and so it's a thing. I mean, people build these straw sculptures and then light them on fire, and so we met some of these artists, and we invited one, Vytautas Mustakis was his name, and we invited him to come and show us how to build these structures.
How long did it take you? And and when you say we, tell us who was working with you here.
Well, Holiday Alley was sort of the host of the of us, being able to exhibit this sculpture, and then Sputnik Architecture and Anvil Tree worked in tandem to have Vytautas come and help us, and we worked in Selkirk for 2 weeks to build the sculpture.
Where's this huge lantern been living since Holiday Alley ended, and then now you're going to be taking it back out? Has it been on display in Selkirk, or has it been sort of behind closed doors?
Yeah, well, the city of Selkirk has just been so gracious and facilitating this, and they've given us this kind of barn in Selkirk Park to store it. So it's in a safe place. We're going to go out there probably later today and see how it's fared the winter and put it back together. And tomorrow we're going to set it ablaze.
You're going to burn it down.
That's right.
Who gets to light the match? Is it a match? You're going to all come in with I don't know. How are you going to do it?
Well, we haven't figured that out yet. During the construction of the sculpture, we had school groups from Selkirk. And so we talked about maybe having one of the students who came by or a couple of the students. And so we're still working those details out. But regardless, come 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's going to get lit on fire.
So 7:30 or 8 on the waterfront in Selkirk. You won't miss it because it's huge.
Yeah.
You'll see it if you're going to this. This is also part of a goal to make Selkirk, I understand, home to Canada's first and largest straw sculpture symposium. Are there hopes to do more of these in the future then?
Well, this year, because it's the first time we do it, we're really focusing on kind of documenting it and really seeing how this can play out, and in the hopes that we could invite some teams next year, because I mean the city of Selkirk has space to host several teams, and the idea is to have more artist teams join, and then this burning event, rather than just burning one sculpture, we have several sculptures, and it's kind of a thing that happens every year in Selkirk. So this year we're just kind of working on seeing how this works, seeing how the logistics work out, and generating interest so that we could, maybe get some sponsorship.
What a fabulous way to say goodbye to winter.
I agree. Yeah.
Right?
It's really kind of a poetic way to shed off the winter blues and welcome in spring.
I thought of you because when Festival de Voyageurs was having challenges with snow, they started talking about sculpting with other mediums. Had you sculpted with straw before?
I haven't sculpted with straw specifically, but having worked for the School of Art at the U of M for years and gone through the program there, I've made sculptures out of pretty much everything.
Yeah. Is it easy to work with straw? Did you have to wet it first to make it pliable, or what's the key?
No.
To it?
So we used flax straw, and we bought it from a local farmer in the area. And the thing about flax straw is it kind of sticks to itself like Velcro. So it was an amazing product to work with, and you could just it's just so easy to work with.
Do you have a sense of how it's going to burn? Because obviously, as you said, this is something that's done around the world. Is this going to like go up in a huge blaze and then burn all evening, or will it burn itself out, or what's?
So the fire department will be on
obviously,
hand.
yeah.
And we're going to sort of cordon off the area and make sure that everybody is safe, because
yeah.
eventually the integrity of the sculpture will fail.
Yeah.
And this much we know, and so we want to protect anyone watching the sculpture burn from it falling on them.
But I wonder how long it's going to last.
Well, we don't know this yet. So we did some test burns with flax, and it ignites no problem, as you could imagine. It's pretty smoky, but like I said, the understructure is made out of wood too, so that's also going to light on fire, and it's going to be really interesting.
It's going to be a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone that loves sitting by a fire, like this is the event for you. I am one of those people. Thank you for telling us about the artistry behind it and the history behind it all around the world. And enjoy this weekend. I'll mention the event as well for people so they can head out to the waterfront in Selkirk. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
It's my conversation with Chris Pankow. He's an artist and creative director at Anvil Trees. So here are your details. And by the way, I pointed you to my Facebook page, but on YouTube, we had awesome video of this. So you can go back on our YouTube stream, CBC Manitoba, subscribe. It's easy. And you can, go back in the show and even watch that video. So check it out because Chris provided that to us. The sculpture, if you want to go tomorrow, it's being burned Saturday, 7:30 safely on the Selkirk waterfront on Eveline Street. They do ask if you're going to go down there and check it out, that you bring a lawn chair.
Ashern, Ericsdale, we want to get to know you a little better. CBC's Communities in Focus is coming to your communities March 18th to 22nd. Come and share the stories of your home with me. I'm Bryce Hoy. Let's get to know each other. Communities in Focus. Visit cbc.ca/Manitoba/community for more.
Just a reminder that Communities in Focus is in St. Laurent area this week, also on the shores of Lake Manitoba. Emily Brass is there. Nadia Kidwai is having office hours as well. So please check out the MTT Petro-Canada Diner on Highway 6. If you have a story to pitch, you can always go in and share why you love and live in that area. And next week, Bryce, all over Ashern, Ericsdale. The morning show is going to be live in Ashern at the Chicken Chef next Thursday. So maybe you can come down and say hello to us. We're just getting our show together, but if you've got a story to share, write to us, radio893@cbc.ca. I'm Marcy Marcusa, filling in here on Radio Noon here today. As I mentioned, it's 13 minutes to 1 o'clock now on your noon hour. Mixed bag of weather. There's light rain, there's light snow. It depends where you are. Portage with the rain, 4 degrees. Thompson with light snow, -3. In Winnipeg right now, it's cloudy and it's 2 degrees. Well, if you're looking for something to do over the weekend, there are some spots in Manitoba that offer goat yoga. But a lot of them in our province are outside. So that might not be so great. But goat yoga indoors is also offered in Thunder Bay. And they have goat yoga that also includes a busy little pony. CBC's Amy Hadley went to check it out near a farm in Thunder Bay, and she found a few animals and a whole lot of happy people.
Who's coming?
Hi, my name is Julie Gergerich, and I'm from Town Line Equestrian Center.
Julie, what is happening here today?
So today is goat yoga. It's one of our funnest events we put on. So goat yoga is more like an experience, right? So you come here, you experience the farm, you get the yoga, and the goats interact with the people doing the yoga themselves. Yeah.
In what ways? Tell me more about the interaction.
The goats are running around. At the end, we actually allow people to have a little cup of food, so the goats climb all over them. They get to hold and cuddle them.
Want to pet it? It's all by itself and it's a baby goat.
And so it's quite neat. And we also have a miniature pony that joins us too, Scooter.
How does Scooter get involved?
Scooter just kind of races around here. Scoots.
That true to his name.
All right, so we're going to get the yoga class started, everyone. My name is Shay from Ananda Studios. We're just going to have a really light and fun class today. Obviously, I want you to take as many breaks as you want. Play with the goats. Scooter loves a good head scratch.
It's just a way to interact with the animals. And the best way is sort of lying around in their world and letting them interact with you.
Closing their eyes the first time we did this. We're not going to do that today. They like to nibble toes once in a while, so eyes are staying open for this class. All right, when you're ready, let's take
Okay, yeah, I'm Shay Mascarin, and I'm the owner and lead instructor at Ananda Studios in Thunder Bay. The goats come in, we have a lot of fun, we do some stretching, but of course we're here to play with the goats, so everybody really enjoys that part, and it's been going really well. We're having a lot of fun doing it.
How many goats will be making an appearance today?
I actually think we're going to have some extra goats today because one of the goats, Peaches, was pregnant. Pretty sure she did give that litter, so I think we might have some real baby goats today. Side to side. And back to center. Sweep those arms up.
Hi, my name's Riley Fredrickson.
Riley, what brought you out to goat yoga today?
I did it in the fall and I absolutely loved it. It was a great experience, so I had to come back again.
When you were doing the yoga, how did the goats get involved? What was going on?
They ran around. It took them a bit to get situated, but once they kind of got more comfortable with the environment, they kind of they went to say hello to everyone, got some pats, a couple snacks, and just did their thing while we did yoga.
How much focus is on the yoga and how much focus is on the goats?
Minimal focus on the yoga, a lot of excitement on the goats.
Hi, my name's Knox.
Hi, my name's Zoe.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. Tell me about what's about to happen here.
Well, we're gonna go do some yoga with some goats. They're gonna climb on our back, and so.
They're gonna climb on your back?
Uh-huh.
Zoe, do you think a goat's gonna climb on your back today?
Yeah.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna be like normal yoga where you just do stretches and stuff. It's gonna be fun. It's okay. We're gonna poop patrol. Just a second.
Oh no.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Ma.
And mine's Peyton Ma.
We are cleanup crew. Pooper scoopers.
You know, because goats pee and poop a lot, so I want to clean it up.
So how busy are you?
I think we're pretty busy.
And you can switch sides.
Everybody just leaves here so happy, and it's such a good feeling. And, you know, to be part of this and to open our farm and be able to do this, it's just been amazing.
Right here, Rika, look. Put them in your hand. Put them in your hand. It's okay, they won't hurt you. You can pet them.
How cute is that? Goat yoga. It's either like really for you or it's really not for you. There's a number of places that you can go and experience goat yoga in Manitoba as well. We were listening to a snapshot of a very popular goat yoga event held earlier this week at the Town Line Equestrian Center in Thunder Bay. There, it's a regular fundraiser to help out with animals in the area. Here in Manitoba, we've had goat yoga. Probably back in 2017 was when I remember us doing some of the very first stories of spots in the province that you can take part. It's on my bucket list. It is 8 minutes to 1 o'clock. Well, if seeing Leaf Rapids is on your bucket list, then you're going to have a chance. Now, I'm not talking about the beautiful town in northwest Manitoba. I am talking about the Winnipeg Band. They have announced their upcoming album, Velvet Painting. It's going to be released April 19th. So, of course, upcoming release shows around that time next month. But we have a sneak peek from the album. This is Leaf Rapids and Silver Fillings.
You say when to go.
And action.
Is it so hard to love? It's a miracle we're here at all. Why is it so hard to love? Walking down Broadway, minding myself. Suddenly I'm hearing Highway to Hell. Stop dead in my tracks and drown in the crowd. Nobody else hears a sound. My silver fillings are sometimes receivers. First time it happened, I thought it was Jesus. Funny the things that can lead to salvation. Holes in my teeth and a radio station. Is it so hard to love? It's a miracle. We're here.
I'm Marcy Marcus, and you're listening to CBC.
Why is it so?
On the app or on YouTube, where you might have just been watching a very entertaining video where in the end they do love each other. They're hugging it out at the end of the video. It's 3 minutes to 1 o'clock now, and before we wrap Radio Noon today, Faith Fundell, host of Up to Speed, is in to tell us about what they're working on for this afternoon. Hi.
Marcy, a Winnipeg social worker welcomes Police Chief Denny Smyth's message about the recent violent incidents involving young people in foster care, but he worries about the impact on the 10,000 or so children who are also in child and family services in the system. We're going to have a conversation with him about his concerns and why he also welcomes the Police Chief Smith message coming up on the program.
I also want to point people, I know you know this, Faith, as well, but we've been working collectively on a series about youth violence overall in the sort of bigger picture and from coming at it from all different aspects. And all of those pieces do live on our CBC Listen app. So you can check out all the shows, you can hear the work, you can hear from youth themselves in the city in their voices. You know, what do they think about the current climate of what's happening in Winnipeg and what puts them at risk? So you always say nothing about us without us. So this series included that, and then also did look at other provinces and places in North America.
It's complicated, isn't
it? Try to
it?
get ahead of it. It's very complicated. Yeah. I did it, Faith, just switching gears here.
You didn't say good morning.
I didn't say good morning. I can't believe it happened. Thank you.
You did it.
Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Faith Fundell on the air here on CBC from 3 to 6 with Up to Speed. So we'll safely get you home with some interviews, of course, insight into the news of the day, and some great music as well for a nice Friday closure to the week. Well, that closes out Radio Noon. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Big thanks to the people who worked on putting the show together. Kalkadan Mulugeta, Wendy Parker, Dylan Longhurst, Matt Humphrey, Riley Lachek, all involved in the broadcast today, as well as Travis Peterson, who's been behind the YouTube controls, and our tech director this afternoon for Radio Noon, May McKillop. Thank you guys for supporting me getting through Radio Noon today. I'll be back with Information Radio early Monday morning, and as mentioned, don't miss Up to Speed this afternoon right here on CBC.